is episode number 29 of Hitting for the Cycle. I'm Ryan Touhey, that's Ben Kruse. And Ben, how are you doing on this sunny day compared to the dreary day that we had the last recording?
Yeah, two different things, Ryan. We have a recording not on a Thursday, so it's a little interesting. We have it on a Monday. But due to our guy Nick, appreciate you, Nick, all the time. Going to Disney in a couple days, so hope you guys have a good vacation. So we're doing a little bit early, which I can't complain about. Got some sun to start our week, so I can't complain about that either. So I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good, and we'll see if this is a sunny week in either New York or Connecticut or Boston or wherever your team's allegiance lies. So we're going to get into this past weekend in baseball. But before we do, we just want to remind everybody to please follow the Hitting for the Cycle podcast on Facebook, X, and Instagram at HFTC Follow the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. And finally, listen to us on whatever platforms you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and this show is presented to you guys by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can watch the streams, live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers for a question and answer. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. Playback right now, we currently are partnered with NBA League Pass. So during this playoffs, me, Nick, and a bunch of other people from the ETB team have been watching these games on Playback. So make sure to join them, put your comments in, questions in. We'd love to hear from you guys. And of course, if you guys are interested to come on, if we have the VIP access, by all means, we'd love to have you guys come on and maybe watch a game here or two with us as well. So yes, this show is presented to you guys by Playback. Make sure to hop on. You wouldn't want to miss it.
All right, so let's get into it. So in this episode, I want to start off with talking about some teams who have been red hot as of late. The three teams that I want to focus on are the New York Mets, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Atlanta Braves. And we're going to start off with the Mets. The Mets began this season 0-5, and their team and their fans were already going crazy, and we're saying this is going to be a disastrous season. And if you watched them the first 5 games of the season, it was kind of hard to blame them with the way that the Mets had played. I mean, they weren't scoring any runs at all. They were scoring 1 to 2 runs at most a game. And as a matter of fact, it was 1 run on opening day, 1 run in game 3, no runs in game 4, and only 3 runs in game 5. So there was a large amount of concern running along Flushing Queens. But since then, the Mets have turned it on. They have won 12 of 16 and are now 12-9 overall. And they just took 2 out of 3 from the loaded Los Angeles Dodgers in LA over the weekend. And not only that, they also took 2 out of 3 against their division rival, Atlanta Braves, who we will talk about in just a few minutes in Atlanta from April 8th to April 11th. So, yeah, the Mets right now are clicking, especially on offense. I mean, the offense was shut down yesterday by Tyler Glasnow. But, I mean, the Mets have really picked it up. And there's a lot to look forward to. JD Martinez still has yet to make his Met debut this year. I think he's going to be a huge addition to the team. And, yeah, I mean, I think a big reason why for this surge, honestly, is somebody who I am very familiar with, Harrison Bader. Go figure. Bader's been tearing the cover off the ball for the Mets. He's hitting he hit well over 300, and he's been a major reason. And the Mets right now are just looking good. And he's been hitting, and there's been a lot of contributions going on around the team. Lindor's starting to pick up the bat a little bit more. Marte's been swinging the bat much better. So there's a lot to like. And they really handled the Dodgers pretty well in that first game on Friday night. They won that by a score of 9-4. And like I said, they were shut down yesterday. But, all things considered, the Mets right now just picked themselves right back up. And, you wouldn't have known that they were off to an 0-5 start if you weren't really paying attention with the way that they've been playing so far. So I mean, I know you're not a Mets fan, but what do you think has been the biggest reason for this turnaround by the Mets?
Yeah. And I just gotta say specifically, it's good for New York sports to have the Mets be good. I know obviously Ryan you might not feel that, but if the Mets and the Yankees are both good throughout the summer, there's nothing better to have both teams kind of go back and forth with each other. I know one of the Mets teams recently with Verlander and Scherzer, they had a very good team going against the Yankees. Obviously, we're playing really, really well. So obviously, the games mean a lot. Specifically, better if the Mets are pretty good. Um, and I wouldn't say they're pretty good right now, but they've been very solid. Considering them being 0-5, but that's baseball for you. You could have specifically a couple weeks where you completely look massively lost. And then you could have a couple weeks where you essentially everything's going right for you. Your bats are clicking, and I'm just seeing this also too, Ryan, with this team is the energy. The energy obviously looks a lot better, and just game by game, obviously, just the confidence is a lot better when winning obviously heals a lot, as they pretty much say in sports. The Mets really doing well with it. Their bullpen, Ryan's been excellent. Edwin Diaz, obviously, coming back for them has been absolutely massive. Um, the game on Saturday, bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the eighth. Edwin came in. I think he walked a couple guys. Muncy was up, boom, strikeout. And then pretty much they went 1, 2, 3 in the ninth to seal that one. So despite them losing 10-0 yesterday, that was pretty much a throwaway game for I wasn't expecting the Mets to sweep the Dodgers, let alone take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Despite obviously the Mets playing really, really well, but they did. They took 2 out of 3 against them, which I think is a massive win for them. Um, they have the Giants coming up. The Giants obviously been very up and down. So I feel like they could probably take 2 out of 3. And yeah, I mean their bats are doing a lot better. I don't even think Alonso's been like great. He's been good, but I think once Pete kind of gets going, right? JD. They said Ryan that JD might be coming back this Friday, according to Mendoza yesterday. So if they can get him back, of course the game would be on Apple TV. JD comes back, so it's just like that's baseball for you. So but yeah, JD comes back right with that line. Lindor obviously starting to swing a little bit after obviously a massive, awful start from him. I mean, I think he wasn't hitting absolute lick for the first couple of weeks, and now he's starting to hit it better, especially from the left side. The left side kind of has been a weaker spot for him, but he's doing really well. Yeah, I mean, Beatty obviously going down obviously hurts. He's had a really good start for them. So, but all things considered, I mean, their rotation's been okay. Manaya, I know Hauser obviously got roughed up yesterday, but Severino, obviously your old guy Severino too, Ryan. He's been doing all right lately. So, a couple former Yankees are showing off with their other team in New York. So, um, that must feel pretty good for them. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a long season. They don't say 162 for nothing, and the Mets are one of those teams that went from the trajectory of the down now to the trajectory on the very, very top. So we'll see in terms of where things stand, but yeah, they're doing a lot better as we speak, obviously, to this day.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to maintain the momentum for a full season. And it is only, as of the day of this recording, it's April 22nd. And it is a long season at the end of the day. And the National League East is a very tough division with the Braves and the Phillies fighting for the top 2 spots, obviously. So, the Mets, good for them that they were able to pick themselves up before things got out of hand. They could be in a position like the Marlins, who are well out of the playoff position already at this stage in the season. But, give credit to the Mets. They got themselves out of their funk, and they were really hot over the past week. And like I said, they took some pretty impressive series. The fact that they won a series in Los Angeles and in Atlanta, 2 teams who have had their number and have had the number of basically everybody else in baseball over the past God knows how many years. It's very impressive, and you got to tip your cap to them regardless. And it is a little bit of a pain in the butt to see guys like Bader and Severino, do well, especially because you wanted them to do well for your team and it just didn't happen. I feel like that goes for a lot of ex-Yankees, but yeah, I mean the Mets definitely did what they needed to do, and right now they're sitting in 3rd place in the National League East, and they're right in the thick of things between the Phillies and the Braves. So we'll see if it becomes a 3-way dogfight in the National League East for most of this year, and we'll see how that shapes up. Now we're going to shift to the Cleveland Guardians, and the Guardians have the best record in Major League Baseball. They have been, if you had told me that the Guardians of all teams would
Mm.
be the best team in baseball on April 22nd, I would think to myself, nah, I don't know about that. But it's true. The Guardians right now sit at 16-6 overall,
Mhm.
and they are coming off a sweep of the Oakland Athletics. Now, granted, the Athletics are nothing special, obviously, but
Mm.
the Guardians right now have won 4 in a row and have won 6 of their last 7. That dates back to their comeback walk-off win against the Yankees on April 14th. They followed that up by taking 3 out of 4 against the Red Sox in Fenway and then sweeping the A's, like I mentioned. But yeah, I think this is pretty impressive, obviously. And this marks just the 5th time in the last 80 years that Cleveland has won 16 of its first 22 games. And what's really standing out to me, I mean, they have a rookie manager in Stephen Vogt, who just 2 years ago was playing for the A's, and now here he is leading this young Guardians team to first place in the American League Central Division. And I think the team has really been fond of having Vogt as their manager. From what I've seen so far in highlights, I think the players really enjoy playing for Vogt, and I think this team has a lot of confidence in themselves. I think that they obviously the American League Central Division is one of the weakest divisions in all of Major League Baseball, but I think that definitely just makes Cleveland, the Guardians, think, hey, nobody really is expecting much out of this division. Why not take it? And I think they're just playing with a lot of looseness and a lot of confidence. And some guys, especially Josh Naylor, have been tearing the cover off the ball. And Jose Ramirez has been doing Jose Ramirez things. The pitching has been very good. I mean, losing Shane Bieber really stinks, obviously, but the pitching staff has been good. The Guardians have been held to just 5 hits, the Guardians have also been held to 5 or fewer hits in just 2 of their 22 games. So that's really impressive. So they're really hitting the ball. And yeah, I mean, Cleveland right now is playing very well. And like I said, they sit up top the American League Central Division. And yeah, we'll see where this goes for them. And yeah, I don't. Did you have the Guardians? Obviously it's early, but
Mhm.
did you think the Guardians had potential going into this season?
I did. I mean, AL Central. There's not a lot of perennial favorites really come out. To be honest, the Red Sox last year, the record that they had last year, and obviously it was awful, but they would have made the playoffs and the AL Central. So that pretty much just kind of tells you everything about that division. But all things aside, good for the Guardians. Obviously Terra Francona moving on. I thought maybe they'd take a slip down. It sounds like they just haven't been skipping a beat right now, especially Bieber going down, which obviously sucks too. The Guardians, obviously, they're a pesky team, right? They give me Rays vibes in a way where they have a couple guys that can, obviously J. Rom's obviously a stud. Naylor's obviously good, but obviously Bo Naylor, Gabriel Arenas or something like that. They had some like guys specifically
Yes.
that, yeah, Arenas, yeah. Um, they got some guys in that lineup that you just don't really know much about, but they're putting the ball in play. They don't strike out a lot, Ryan. This team, they put the ball in play a lot. I think that's really good for teams because obviously half of these teams are strikeout machine teams. The Guardians aren't one of them. They put the ball in play. They don't really obviously go for the long ball like some other teams, but putting the ball in play, obviously, your chances of winning a lot more is greater than not. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, good for them, especially with a new manager to kind of get off to a good start. And obviously, if they play, like they've been playing now, I mean, I had the Twins obviously win the division. Currently, right now, I know, like I said, I know it's early, it's April, but looks like right now the Guardians might be kind of taking that spot as of right now. Just the fact is they're just playing really, really well. Our bullpen's been pitching well. They're pitching kind of all along. McKenzie is obviously been pitching well too. The starting rotation, and we get to face them this week, Ryan, again. So
Already?
hope, yeah, yeah, they have our schedule where we had to face them 4 times at our place, and then we have to go back to their place this week. So that kind of sucks, but it's what it is. Hopefully, we can get some payback from their series win in our place. And I think we got Hauk on tomorrow, who had the complete game shutout. The only one we had against them last week. Then we got TBD, as Cora mentioned yesterday in his post game, because we just have so many guys going down, including Whitlock. So I don't know who's going to be pitching on Wednesday, and then Bear's going to be pitching on Thursday. So I think that two of our pitchers have been pitching fairly well to kind of start the year. Got to play them at their place. So yeah, obviously credit to the Guardians. They're playing really, really well, and I hope we can kind of stop their hot streak this week.
Yeah, the Guardians have a plus 52 run differential, and that is the fourth highest in franchise history through 22 games in a season. So right now, Cleveland's just playing extremely well. They're hitting on all cylinders. And like I said, right now on this day, April 22nd, 2024, they are sitting with the best overall record in Major League Baseball. And wouldn't it be something if the Guardians, continue this start throughout most of the season? And like we both mentioned, or like you had mentioned, both of us had the Twins winning this division at the beginning of the year. The Twins have gone off to a terrible start, and right now it's Cleveland's division. I mean, the Royals are only 3 games back, and it's still very early, so you can't necessarily
Royals been playing well.
You can't necessarily get too high on Cleveland just yet. But I could definitely see Cleveland winning this division. Come September or October. I mean, if it wasn't the Twins, the Guardians would have been my second choice for this division. So, yeah, Cleveland leads the Central, and unsurprisingly, the Braves lead the National League East as of this time. And my God, can the Braves hit? They just hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. Now, obviously, losing Spencer Strider hurts, but that does not help. That does not deter their offense at all. It is still very deadly. And this is also with without Ozzy Albies, and Ronald Acuna hasn't necessarily gone berserk yet. But the Braves, everybody else is doing their thing. The Braves are currently 14-6, sitting in first place in the National League East. They had just taken 2 out of 3 against the defending world champion Texas Rangers in Atlanta this weekend. And I'm just doing the math here. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've won 7 out of their last 9. So yeah, the Braves are doing Braves things. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say about Atlanta? They are one of the perennial teams in baseball seemingly every year. They're always atop the National League East almost every year. And we'll see how it goes, see if they can continue. You wonder if that injury to Strider is going to hurt the rotation moving forward. But I think the Braves, regardless, are just too deep. I think they're too good to have that, get in the way of ruining their season. As hard as it is to lose Spencer Strider, I just think there's just so much depth around that organization, and the players are just so damn good. And no matter what, they're gonna be a pain in the ass for every other team throughout this season. So look out for the Braves regardless. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say about them? They're just a juggernaut.
Yeah, we'll probably be saying the Braves are red hot for a lot of this season because it's the Braves. Their lineup is absolutely. They're probably I think, Ryan, their lineup is the best team, is the best lineup in baseball. I just think balance as a whole. Obviously, you kind of look from the top to bottom. There's a lot of other good lineups out there, but I think that the Braves, to me, the one that stands out probably is them. Like you said, Acuna isn't even getting going yet, which is essentially scary because when he does, it could be wraps potentially probably for the National League. He is that good. Obviously, Olsen, Riley, obviously they're doing their thing. Darno hit 3 home runs. Their catcher, even their catcher is putting massive numbers out there. So you don't get that very often from a lot of teams that they're catching. So yeah, just that pretty much kind of says itself. Their bullpen, obviously, their pitching as a whole, like you said, Strider goes down, but I wouldn't be surprised, Ryan, if obviously they make a trade. On top of this is a lot of aggressiveness at the deadline, and they find a way to get somebody, maybe a guy like the White Sox or the Rockies, somebody to kind of fill. Obviously, he's not going to fill in the Strider shoes. But yeah, and Marcell Ozuna, Ryan, who Braves fans were clamoring for him to get DFA'd and moving on from him. He is absolutely turning back the clock to his days with the Marlins. He just joined Christian Yelich 2019 as the only MLB player with 9 home runs and 25 RBIs in our team's first 20 games in the past 15 seasons. And he also joined Chipper Jones in 1998 and Dale Murphy in 1985 as the only Braves player to do it since RBI became an official stat in 1920. Just Braves are just doing Braves things. They just beat the Rangers 2 out of 3 this weekend. Wouldn't actually shock me if that's the World Series matchup, honestly. But yeah, they have the Marlins this week. It starts tonight, so they probably should take care of them. And yeah, just these 3 teams, Ryan, the Braves to me, this is not a shock one bit, but give them credit for sure.
Yeah, the Braves. Ozuna joins Christian Yelich from 2019 as the only major league players with 9+ home runs and 25+ RBIs in their team's first 20 games in the past 15 years. And he also joins Chipper Jones in 1998 and Dale Murphy in 1985 as the only Braves players to do it since the RBI became an official stat. It's astonishing. It really is. And I mean, the Braves basically lead the league in all the major offensive categories. They lead the league in batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS. It's it's a juggernaut. What can you say? And we'll see if they keep it up throughout the rest of the regular season. So yeah, unsurprisingly, Atlanta off to a good start, and they'll be at the top of the National League East, or fighting for that top spot in the National League East for basically the whole season. Now we're going to move on to one team that's kind of been a little bit of a disappointment. The Los Angeles Dodgers are not necessarily dominating in the early part of the 2024 season. The Dodgers right now are sitting at 13-11. Now they did beat the Mets. They clobbered the Mets yesterday, 10-0. But the Mets still took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And not only that, but the Dodgers also lost 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals at Dodger Stadium. So they're struggling playing at home. And the Dodgers, they definitely have the bats, but their pitching has kind of been disappointing. They're 17th in pitching ERA at a 4.13. So their pitching's kind of been a disappointment. I mean, losing Bobby Miller for a while definitely doesn't help out the cause. Yamamoto's been okay. I mean, it's still early. You can't necessarily get on him too much. He's had some good starts, but he's also had some bad ones as well. Tyler Glasnow turned in his best start as a Los Angeles Dodger yesterday against the Mets. He killed the Mets yesterday. But yeah, the Dodgers right now are, like I said, they're in first place in the National League West. I mean, the National League West as a whole right now is actually pretty bad. Both West divisions right now are pretty bad as of this recording. But I wouldn't necessarily be too concerned about that, about the Dodgers. I think they'll be fine. I mean, the fact that they're still in first place in the National League West, that only leads me to believe that they're eventually just going to take off at some point during the regular season. But the fact that it is the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the fact that they spent so much money this offseason to bring in so many guys such as Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and it's obviously worth mentioning. So yeah, the Dodgers aren't exactly dominating everybody, but I definitely think that day will come soon. I don't think there's much reason to panic in Chavez Ravine right now.
Yeah, I mean the 2 things that I think that can kind of spoil their party this season is Dave Roberts. Obviously having a good manager. I'm being serious, Ryan. He's been blamed by a lot of Dodger fans. I mean, I see people on social media saying, fire Roberts, this, that, and sometimes when you just have a team of just loaded guys, you kind of get away with it. But obviously having a good manager is massive. And I think their bullpen has had some struggles too. They don't really have a solidified closer by any means. Guys like Brazier, who was a former Red Sox, he's kind of going back down to earth, which I was hopeful about because, he was doing awful with us. So, hopefully he was going to do awful with them. No, I was just kidding. I hope he does well with them. Mookie, obviously, he's doing Mookie Betts things. Shohei, obviously, we'll talk about Shohei in a bit, but he passed a certain someone that was on your team for homers. So, all time. I think I'm pretty sure it was. But like I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, their lineup is still loaded. Like I said, a lot of these teams, it's April. I wouldn't worry too much about them. There's another team right now that's a AL juggernaut typically that I worry a little bit more. Which I think Ron and I were kind of happy about as of right now, at least to this point in time, because you never know, they can kind of get going because they're typically inevitable. But yeah, this obviously, with them struggling, obviously 2 out of 3 of the Braves. Yeah, the Dodgers will be fine. I really just don't see a certain situation where they won't, and they probably will get some guys to the deadline too. I wouldn't be shocked if they wanted to get Adames from the Brewers, or the Brewers kind of fall apart a little bit. Their infield defense, the Dodgers do. I think with Mookie going back to the outfield, would be massive. I think him playing in middle infield, I think he does obviously a lot of things well, but I think kind of it hurts specifically when you kind of play out of position consistently. I think he can obviously kind of do it for a couple games, but over a course of a couple weeks, I think it kind of takes a toll on you. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Dodgers add some more guys to the deadline. But yeah, 13-11, they're not obviously being the cover off the ball either. But like I said, they'll be fine. I'm not so worried about it.
Yeah, the Dodgers had lost 5 of their last 7, and they had also lost 8 of their last 13. So, like I said, it's kind of it's just uncharacteristic of the Dodgers because we're just so used to them just winning, and it's just a little uncharacteristic, yeah. But I also think you made a good point when it comes to Mookie. I watched the game. I caught a little bit of the game against the Mets on Friday night, and he made a very awkward throw to first base from shortstop. And when you're playing a natural outfielder on the 2 middle infield positions, eventually, I think it's going to catch up to him. Where he will do something that he just wouldn't do. If he was a natural shortstop, he makes that play 10 times out of 10. So, I definitely think that Mookie eventually should get some more reps back out in the outfield. I think that definitely will be a benefit for him and for the Dodgers. But yeah, I mean, Mookie is one of the best players, and he's still tearing the cover off the ball, and he's still my pick to win the National League MVP this year. So I'm not too concerned about him or the Dodgers. I think they're going to be just fine. And we're going to touch on what you had brought up just a few minutes ago. Shohei Ohtani made history yesterday. He is now the all-time Japanese home run leader in Major League Baseball. He surpassed Hideki Matsui. He hit his 176th home run in the major leagues yesterday. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say? Ohtani, who's not even 30 years old yet, he doesn't turn 30 until July, already has this record locked up. And, and passing.
Just because. Of course he does, Ryan.
Yeah. And passing, Hideki Matsui. Matsui was no slouch. Matsui was a solid player in Major League Baseball. I mean, he was the World Series MVP in 2009 for the Yankees, and he was a very good player. But I mean, it's obvious Ohtani's the best Japanese player to ever come over to the United States, and Ohtani obviously is making a case to be one of the best baseball players of all time in general, with the way that he is. And yeah, I mean, here's a guy with a damaged UCL, just still tearing the cover off the ball. Here's a guy who also lost his translator and his best friend earlier this year to a massive gambling scandal, and here he is doing Ohtani things, not letting anything bother him. So what else can you say about the guy? I mean, he just dominates.
Yep. Yeah, Ryan. Like I said, this is a once in a lifetime type player. I was fortunate enough and blessed to see him in person play at Fenway last year. Obviously making my pitch for him to come to Boston, but obviously, that didn't work out. It's what it is. But yeah, obviously he's doing his stuff with the Dodgers. Obviously had a really slow start to the year, but he's playing a lot better. And yeah, obviously Matsui, as a Sox fan, was one of the guys I did come to respect. Had really no grudges against him. Just kind of played the right way. Obviously 04 championship, he had a lot of big moments. With that team specifically in 04, that Yankee team, they're a juggernaut. But obviously 03, they had a lot of teams back in the day that were just machines offensively. And Matsui was obviously one of them. So for Otani to do this before 30, breaking this record for a guy that was a really well-known Yankee and played really, really well over the course of his career. It's just impressive. And like you said, Otani could be coming down as not only just one of the best players right now, but like Babe Ruth territory good, which obviously you just don't see you know at all now. We just don't know in terms of how long he'll be able to sustain pitching, right? Because obviously when you pitch and you hit, like I said, I hope he does both for a long, long time, because it's great to see. And it's a different side of baseball that I think that we just never kind of came to accustomed to seeing for a while. And he's been doing it, and now he's bursting onto the scene as pretty much everybody should know in terms of how he is for baseball. So, yeah, I mean, give credit to Shohei, and this is obviously going to be one record of a million that I bet Ohtani is going to be breaking by the end of his career. So, um, you know, credit to where credit's due with Ohtani. Congrats to him. And obviously, like I said, Matsui was a well-oiled machine when it came to his offense with the Yankees for a lot of good teams that they had. And yeah, obviously the record's bound to be broken.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how, as a Yankee fan, I didn't realize how lucky we were to have Matsui until after the World Series. Once they crazily let him go to free agency and he signed coincidentally with the Angels, um, I realized, damn, man, I wish we had kept him. He was a real, I mean, Matsui, was not Shohei Ohtani, but
Hmm.
Matsui was still a very, very good hitter. And he was a class act all the way around, did what he was supposed to do. He played 3 straight years of 162 games from 2003 to 2005. You never see
Yep.
that again. He took pride in playing in being in the lineup every day. Unfortunately, a wrist injury in 2006 just really hurt him. He was never really the same player again after that injury, but he was still a very capable hitter. And he was a big Red Sox killer. Derek Lowe, the former Red Sox pitcher, said, "I can't get him out when it comes
Yeah.
to Hideki Matsui." So,
Yep.
but yeah, and when Otani came up in 2018, I think people thought, this is kind of unique, a guy who can hit and a guy who can pitch. But I don't know if anybody necessarily thought that he would reach the levels that he's reaching. I mean, especially since he had a really tough first spring training in 2018. But once the regular season started and he showed glimpses of his skill set during the season, he only has grown from there. He's gotten better with each passing year. He got better after 2018 and 2019. Obviously, won his first MVP award in 21, and then last year he won his second. So he's gotten better with each passing year. And like you had brought up, with all the wear and tear he's done to his body with pitching and hitting, you don't know exactly how long he will be a dominant pitcher necessarily. But I definitely can expect him. I think we can definitely expect him to continue to dominate at the plate for the foreseeable future. I mean, if he can play with one good UCL, then I think that he will be fine in the coming years. I don't expect him to slow down anytime soon. And his life is baseball. And that's all he really cares about, along with his wife and his dog. So I think I think
Yep.
Otani is in good company, and I'm sure there will be, and I have no doubt one day his face will be alongside Ichiro in Cooperstown. But there's the two only Japanese Major League Baseball players to be in there. But yep, so good for Otani, another historic achievement, and there are plenty more to come in the coming years. So now we're going to move on to our next topic, and that involves my Yankees and Aaron Judge. So the Yankees right
Mhm.
now are in a good spot. They're sitting atop the American League East at 15-7. They just have a slim half-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles in the American League East. And we both mentioned the Orioles are going to be a pain in the butt this whole year, and it's not fun to have them right. It's like a police car right behind you on a highway, and
Yeah.
you're just hoping to get away a high-speed
Or
chase.
it's like the the movie Cars.
Yes.
Like how they're on that track, and you have one of the cars is kind of like, hey, like I'm right behind you.
Yeah.
That's clearly Orioles.
That's basically the position the Yankees are in right now. So yeah, the Yankees right now they're in a good spot, 15-7. But there's always a but when it comes to the Yankees and their fans, and I am one to always point out things that I am not necessarily ecstatic about. In spite of their record and placement in the American League East standings, the team is not exactly clicking on all cylinders. The Yankees have the third best ERA team-wise in all of Major League Baseball. The only two teams who have a better team ERA are your Red Sox and the Detroit Tigers. Go figure. So,
Yeah, well, I'll talk about my Sox in a little bit, but that's staggering to say the least.
So yeah, the fact that the Yankees are still a top 3 team ERA without Garrett Cole is pretty impressive, to say the least. And but the big elephant in the room when it comes to the Yankees is how poorly Aaron Judge has gone off to a start this year. And Judge right now is, I think I'm just quickly looking up his stats, but Judge has gone off to his worst start to a season in his career thus far in the major leagues. So right now, Judge is hitting just 183 with 3 home runs and 11 RBIs. He has 15 total hits. And Judge has really looked bad at the plate. He's striking out way too much. He recorded a golden sombrero on Saturday against the Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Eflin just absolutely toyed with him all day long. And Judge could not lay off his off-speed pitches, and which is very uncharacteristic of Judge because he's usually good at laying off speed out of the strike zone. And he usually, just clobbers every fastball that comes his way. But unfortunately, he's late on fastballs, and he's just, for me personally, obviously me being a Yankee fan, I watch almost every single game I can. It looks like he's pressing, and it looks like he's having a hard time identifying pitches. I think I don't know what it is. You don't really see it from Aaron Judge. This is the first time that I'm really seeing him guessing, I think is the best way of putting it at the plate. And if you look at some of his at bats and you look at some of his swings have been awful. They've been very awkward. And he's just in this weird slump. People were saying obviously before the beginning of the season, Soto Judge, the dynamic 1-2 punch of the Yankee offense is going to propel them to a dominant season. That hasn't happened just yet. I mean, Soto's obviously lived up to his billing, but not Judge this year. And there's been a lot of speculation that he might be injured, that it might be something with his toe or his abdomen. Obviously, he had that bad toe injury last year that cost him a lot of the season. And there were reports that he might be standing too far off the plate and causing him to reach out for pitches off the plate that he doesn't normally chase. And I actually agree with that assessment. If you look at his batting stance, I mean, obviously I don't have a side-by-side comparison, but if you put his picture of his batting stance from this season compared to maybe 2022 where he won the MVP award, I got to imagine it's drastically different compared to where his feet are positioned and where he is in the batter's box, because he is flailing at pitches well out of the strike zone. And that's just something that he doesn't do. And Judge is still walking, so he still has he has too good of an eye at the plate to be striking out this much. I mean, obviously, I know you're a Red Sox fan, but based on what you've seen or heard, what are you thinking of this situation with Judge?
I'm not too worried. I would love this to be the whole entire season, but I'm also a realist, and he is one of the best players in baseball. I mean, this is not a guy specifically that is typically when you guys that just slump, it's just in their head, right? It's in their mind. And April, obviously, it's the first month of a marathon, right? And I think yeah, I'd be obviously a little bit worried if this obviously kind of lingered into May, like maybe mid to late May, and be like, okay, yeah, obviously he's not doing well right now. He just looks very indifferent right now, I'd say, at the plate. Maybe is it due to the presence of Juan Soto obviously being kind of, in terms of batting kind of in like the overall shadow of him? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's that case. But I agree with you, Ron. I think it's just really just pressing right now. And I just think that for him, he'll definitely get it. I think typically when you get some hits going, right? It's infectious at the end. So I think that, the thing that's staggering though about it to me, and I'm just looking at his overall stats, is his strikeout numbers. He
Yeah, the
typically has really good numbers, and he usually puts the ball in play consistently, even if he is kind of struggling. So just to kind of see, I mean, obviously 4 strikeouts on Saturday. Obviously, bad stretches, bad slumps are going to happen. But typically, like this is a prolonged slump that you usually just don't see from Judge. You typically maybe see 3 to 4 games, and he'll kind of hit one homer, and then he'll kind of get himself back on track. Um, this obviously is like okay, like guys have been on base, and he's been striking out, he's been popping up. And he's been talking. He was asked about, I think, on Saturday, and it was just like, yeah, just hopeful to try to pounce on the pitches that are in the strike zone, and obviously stuff that isn't. So I'm not worried about it. Like I said, it's obviously great to kind of see Judge go back down to earth as a Red Sox fan. But listen, like I'm a realist too. Like I'm going to see it as it is. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, and I have him for fantasy too, Ryan. So if you can get going, I really would greatly appreciate it as well.
Well, Judge was booed during his Golden Sombrero game on Saturday, which also was his bobblehead day, by the way. So,
And it was John Sterling's day too.
yeah,
So for the fact the Yankees put up a goose egg on John Sterling Day, how dare they?
Judge said he's heard worse, and he'd probably be doing the same thing in regards to booing himself. Yankee fans get a lot of heat for booing their own players. Personally, for me, that's the way it's been that way for God knows how many years at this point now. If you're not used to it now, then get over it. That's the way I am. And Red Sox, I mean, you can attest, Red Sox fans do the same thing with their players if their players stink too. So, like, just,
Oh yes,
yeah,
definitely.
like for me, get over it. It's New York. It's the way it is. You don't play well, you're going to get booed. And people didn't pay all that money to see you strike out 4 times. The Judge knows that too. And
Right.
but Judge isn't the only one who's struggling. I mean, really, the entire lineup besides Soto right now is struggling. Another guy who stands out in the lineup's struggles is Gleyber Torres. And Torres, right now he's only hitting 200. He's only got 2 runs batted in. He still doesn't have a home run yet, which I'm sure is driving him crazy. And this is a guy who's also on a contract here. And on top of that, his defense has also been awful again. And that's been a big problem with Torres. He's never been a strong defender, whether it's been at shortstop or second base. He just has a hard time. Just making routine plays for whatever reason, and his mind will just. It seems like sometimes his mind just goes into a different area.
Yeah.
He kind of seems like he's in La La Land at times, which is a little frustrating. But the Yankees are actually playing in a couple of hours. For some reason, they have a 1 o'clock game on a Monday, which makes
Brian, I think I figured out why they're doing it, and it's a speculation. It's Passover, and
oh yeah.
it's also vacation week. I think for some North New Jersey or something. So they have a Monday 1 o'clock game. But yeah, their lineup is already out. With the Yankees. So Volpe's leading off, Soto's batting second, Judge batting third, Stan batting fourth, Rizzo batting fifth, Torres batting sixth, Verdugo sixth, Trevino seventh, and Cabrera's batting ninth. I'm sorry. Verdugo's batting seventh, Trevino eighth, Cabrera ninth. So I will ask you this about the lineup, Brian, too. And obviously we mentioned about Judge, but how about Anthony Rizzo? How do you feel about him? Do you just feel like specifically, I mean, in the field, he looks like a shell of himself right now. And people are saying, what did that Fernando Tatis incident last year just completely F him, everywhere? Because typically he wasn't that bad of a first baseman with his glove. Couple of routine plays again, the Toronto series just like was staggering. And in his offense, I mean, I think specifically right now, it's just been. I know, obviously, you kind of talked about it, before the season. You're just like, I'm not really expecting a ton from Rizzo. But for a guy specifically that I believe is in a free agent year, I mean, 235. Yeah, I know he's 34 years old, but you want Rizzo to kind of be around 260, maybe 265, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of black holes right now. I mean, obviously, I can't really talk as a Red Sox fan because we'll talk about the Red Sox line in a bit. But my goodness, with Rizzo and Torres, those guys obviously take it to that next level, right? Which I think a lot of Yankee fans are hopeful for. This lineup, like you said, you guys are 15-7. Your pitching's really been kind of the key, kind of where you guys are right now. Because if that lineup turns things around, right? I mean, sky's the limit. Kind of like the Dodgers. If that lineup, if that pitching kind of balances out, sky's the limit. So, yeah, obviously with Glaber, very, very streaky hitter, so I'm not surprised about him. But Rizzo, especially his glove, I'm a little bit surprised that something's up there. Just something's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely strange seeing Rizzo make errors in the field at all. I mean, especially
Yeah.
this early in the season, he's already made 4 errors, which I think was his total from last year, if I'm not mistaken. And this was a guy who was playing with post-concussion syndrome last year. So it's kind of
Yeah.
strange. I mean, Rizzo is getting up there in age. Like you mentioned, he's 34 years old. So.
Right.
So going into this season, I wasn't expecting too much out of him, like I mentioned. I mean, the Chicago Cub, Anthony Rizzo, those days are done. I don't expect. I don't expect him to put up numbers like he did with the Cubs. But I would like to hit. But I still think he's he's capable of hitting anywhere from 250 to 260, which would be totally fine. But from what I've seen in the field, him, dropping ground balls that are hit to him, especially weak choppers. He's dropped a few throws from, shortstop and third base. Granted, some of these throws could be a little better, I think, but, still he's good at picking it out of the dirt. That's one of his specialties. So, the fact that he isn't really picking them out of the dirt as much. And,
He also had that flip. I mean, I think Hamilton dropped it, but it was a routine ground ball to the first base. And he flipped it to Hamilton, and he dropped it.
I think was this yesterday?
I think so.
That was Weaver. He tried flipping.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, he could have just walked over and he would have gotten the out. So I'm like, something's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Rizzo. I really don't know what it is with Rizzo. To be honest, I think he's just getting a little careless from time to time. I mean, it can happen. I mean, we're all human. I wish he would be human at another time, though, when he's on the baseball fields. But I just think that right now he's just in a defensive funk. I guess there's a first for everything. It might be his first defensive funk of his career, where he's just not necessarily making the plays that he typically does. But I mean, we definitely need him to, we need him to be, that reliable first baseman because, the guys who are playing shortstop and third, Volpe and Cabrera, who for the most part have good range and good arms.
They've been playing well.
They've been playing well, but sometimes their throws can be wild. I mean, especially Volpe. I mean, he's still young. Sometimes Volpe will make a wild throw, or will make a throw too high, or will make a throw too low. So we need Rizzo to be able to back him up. But unfortunately, sometimes he just hasn't been able to do that. And in regards to his offense, what would you say, 235 he's hitting right now? I mean,
something like that, yeah. 235, I think.
235. I just want him to pick up the bat just a little bit more.
One home run.
The power shortage is definitely a bit of a concern. I would like him to try at least hit 20 home runs one more time. I still think he has that potential. I mean, granted, it's still April, it's still early, but yeah, Rizzo is definitely a little bit of a concern. But he's not my biggest concern because he's a veteran. He knows what he needs to do, but you just hope that he's capable of doing it. You just hope that his body, is able to cooperate with him. So that's basically where my feelings lie with Rizzo. I trust him that he'll be able to pick it up, but I just hope that he doesn't get hurt or anything like that. But I definitely think he'll get that average up. I definitely think there's more power in that bat. He just
had a rough weekend.
Of course he did. But Stan actually has been one of the better hitters on the team.
He has.
Which is a nice surprise. He definitely needed to get off to a decent start, but yeah, he had a terrible weekend. There's one thing that I would never want Aaron Boone to do ever again. Do not pinch hit Giancarlo Stanton, for God's sake. He's 3 for 41 in his career as a pinch hitter.
Is he really? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's awful. Do not pinch hit Giancarlo. No matter what the situation is, I don't care if you need one swing of a bat to tie the game. I'd rather you pinch hit Jose Trevino at this point in the season. than pinch hit Giancarlo. Jose Trevino's actually been swinging the bat pretty well. Go figure. This is a guy who's been lambasted by the fan base for having no bat whatsoever. Yet he's been one of the better hitters in the lineup. Right now, the best hitters in the Yankee lineup are Soto, Cabrera, and Trevino. Yeah.
What about Verdugo?
Oh, Verdugo actually had a good game yesterday. He had three hits.
I love me some Doogie, so I hope he's doing well. I've been trying to watch him play, but
Doogie got off to a pretty bad start. But he actually has picked up the bat a little bit. Like I said, he had his first 3-hit Yankee game yesterday. Drove in a run. And he's been very good in the outfield. He's been chasing a lot of fly balls out there in left field, especially left field at Yankee Stadium, left center. That's a very tough. It's cavernous out there, and it's a lot of room. So he's done a good job of shagging fly balls down. But basically, to sum it up, despite the Yankees being off to a good start, I'm still seeing signs from last year and the year before where they're relying too much on one guy to be their offense. A lot of these guys are just off to slow starts. Obviously, I touched on Judge and Torres, but Volpe actually is now in a slump. He, I think, went into like an over 12, and now I think he's like.
With him, Ryan, is it because they changed him in the lineup? Because I think
that's another topic that people have been discussing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I meant to say, it was going to happen eventually. The Yankees want Volpe to be their leadoff hitter for the future, which I can understand that because Volpe, in my opinion, can be a leadoff hitter with his style of play. He should be a slap hitter. He should be hitting line drives, and he's got plenty of speed. So I think he would be a good fit for leadoff. So I don't necessarily fault Boone so much for just doing it right away. Like, we're eventually going to do this, so why not just give this a shot right now? Especially since I don't like Torres as the leadoff man because Torres has no speed whatsoever. Torres has had some really bad looking swings this year as well. He also looks like he's doing a lot of guessing at the plate. And, there's also been talk about maybe the Yankees should give Verdugo a shot at leadoff. Obviously, he led off for the Red Sox all those years. But I think they won. But because of Doogie's ability to put the ball in play, they want him up when guys are on base. So they're able to get in some runs. So I can understand that. So I think Volpe should be given a little more time at leadoff. I think eventually he'll break out of this slump. I do expect Torres eventually to break out of this slump, but man, he couldn't have gone off to a worse start. And, especially for somebody who's fighting for a big contract. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of guys who are not going to be back on the Yankees next year. There are a lot of guys playing their final season with the Yankees. I don't expect Torres to be back next year. I don't expect Rizzo to be back next year. So, if these guys want to make one last run at the World Series, they're going to have to start picking up the bats. You can't do what you did last year or else you're not even going to make the playoffs. Juan Soto can't do everything on offense. So that's where I am with the Yankees.
And obviously with Soto, as great as he is, he's obviously going to go down in a slump at some point. It's April. Obviously he's going to have moments where Yankee fans are going to be chomping at the bit for him to kind of get going back up again. So, that's the thing about baseball. Judge might be going on an absolute tear in like June or July, and Soto might be having just an absolute cold spell for weeks. Heck, anything though, Ryan, it can't compare to Bobby Dahlbeck. It can't compare. This guy specifically, and obviously we're kind of transforming into my team really quick. Bobby Dahlbeck, poor guy, man. I mean, he obviously was a guy off the bench already, but I think he's had 27, 28 appearances at the plate, and with the Red Sox right now, and obviously like you mentioned with the Yankees too. They're obviously still staying at the right decent spot, kind of in the AL East. But Bobby Dahlbeck kind of going into the Red Sox team report, I guess if you want to mention that. Tristan Casas, obviously, we talk about injuries right in the last 2 weeks, and the Red Sox specifically are getting injuries left and right every single week. I don't know what the baseball gods have put into the Red Sox, but they've essentially made every single injury like a kick in the nuts even more worse. Lucas Giolito obviously going out for the year. That was obviously number one. And then you had Nick Pivetta, obviously, with one of the flexor strains of multiple pitchers that have been having it. But good news on Pivetta. It sounds like he's been throwing. He's been kind of doing some lawn toss, and it sounds like he is working his way back up in the rotation. So that's pretty good news. Another thing that also came down was Garrett Whitlock. Garrett Whitlock got hurt. He is currently still on the injured list, 15-day. I think he's going to be coming back. It sounds like it's not going to be too long, but he's out. Romy Gonzalez, a guy at that piece, I know obviously he's out with a wrist injury. Tyler O'Neill, who's arguably been on a tear at pace so far, he's on the 7-day IL, but he is expected to be coming back on Tuesday, which is good news. And then, of course, Rafael Devers has been essentially on and off. He's been in the lineup one day, and then he'll be like, yeah, I want to kind of rest it the next day. And Alex Cora is just in a bond asking guys, oh, he'll be back this day. And, he needs to take a couple days after. So Rafi right now specifically, he's been dropping me nuts. But obviously I'm not too worried about him. Trevor Story obviously is out for the season. And then you got Tristan Casas. I mean, come on. So Tristan Casas obviously on Saturday. He's having a swing. He took a walk, I think, and they got that. But one of the swings that he had, he didn't feel right. And his abdomen or his rib area, and he left the game. I was actually listening to this part in the car on my way back from work. So I'm like, dear God, please don't make it serious. I really, really can't take this right now. And, get a report after the game. And Alex Cora said, are you concerned about it? Is he okay? And Alex Cora said, no, he is not okay. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And then the next day after, they asked him just to report follow-up, like, is he okay? And Alex Cora's like, no, he's not doing good. And I'm like, man, oh man. And Casas, they asked him yesterday, and he seemed very dejected. He's like, I've never really been hurt a lot in my career. Feel for the guy. I mean, it sounded pretty much like his normal self, but he seems like he's going to be on the shelf probably for a couple weeks. Hopefully it's nothing, that's going to be monthly. It could be like 4 to 6 weeks though. So the reason why I talked about Bobby Dahlbeck to start my team report was now it's like, well, who can replace Tristan Casas' production? Not many guys, but now you're going to have hear this lineup, Brian, for the weekends against the Pirates. And who would have thought that, essentially the AAA Worcester Red Sox swept the Pittsburgh Pirates not only twice, but 3 times. And I think, Ryan, the Red Sox just have to stay away from Fenway Park this whole entire season if this is the way things are going to be going, because the Red Sox are 10-3 on the road, but they're 3-7 at home. So I think specifically, if that's the case, they should just be called the Red Sox Road Warriors and not the Red Sox from Fenway Park. And
or just do what the A's are doing and don't have a team or don't have a city.
Right. But there's some guys right now that are starting to kind of heat up a little bit. Willie Abreu obviously is getting a lot more playing time. He had a couple multi-hit games. Your old friend Rob Resnider's been playing a lot more. He came back from the injured list, actually one of the guys. He had a homer on Saturday. No, maybe Friday. Yoshida, it's been kind of up and down, but he's starting to swing the bat a little bit better. He had a homer against the Pirates on the 20th. So, and Ceddanne Rafael obviously is getting his, his playing time too, and he got his first home run this past weekend. So, obviously, right, Connor Rollins obviously hitting the bat a little bit, but it's really been the pitching staff, Ryan. That's been absolutely amazing to me. Without the pitching staff, this team is back in last place. But like I said, who knows in terms of how long it's going to be sustainable. But Andrew Bailey has made me happy with this pitching staff more than Dave Bush has ever done with this whole entire team. I don't know what Dave Bush was doing with this pitching staff for the last 3-4 years, but whatever he was doing was not doing anything personally, because I'm seeing specifically results. Brian Bayo, this was on Friday. Brian Bayo, 6 innings, 1 run, no runs, no earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Bayo now has a 3.04 ERA. They had on Saturday Cutter Crawford, Ryan, 0.66 ERA for Cutter Crawford. He's really pitching well. He's getting at least 5-6 innings every single outing, so I'm really happy for Cutter. Kenley Jansen, thank you for actually pitching well for a change. You came up clutch on Saturday, so I do give you a lot of credit there. 1-2-3 inning for Kenley, including Ryan. On Saturday, the Pirates, they had, I think it was the second batter. So Kenley struck out the first guy. The second guy, they struck him out on a pitch clock. Michael A. Taylor was not in the box on the strike 2. they call him out, and the Pirates manager was ripping shit left and right. And I'm just like, what's going on? I looked at the thing. It was 2 outs and 2 strikes. I'm like, did he get called out for that pitch clock stuff going on? And I guess he did. So yeah, the Pirates really they're really starting to kind of slide down a little bit. O'Neal Cruz looks like a shell himself. He was with swinging stuff left and right. And then yesterday they had a spot start for Winkowski. He only went 3 innings, but obviously that's kind of what you're going to get from him. Greg Weiser, your old friend from the Yankees, he's been pitching okay. He's 1.86 ERA. He's 1-1 in the season. Justin Slayton has been really, really good. He's a rookie. But he's been giving you 2 innings pretty much almost every single outing recently for the Red Sox. So, and then Chase Anderson, Ryan, who the Red Sox potential big acquisition was probably, even though it wasn't big at all. He's been pitching okay. He's been coming in when the Red Sox have been up within 4 or 5 runs. I'm like, all right, go ahead, Chase, do your thing. He's doing all right. So obviously nothing. All this stuff is not all bad for the Red Sox. I mean, they're 13-10 with essentially a AAA roster. Yesterday's lineup. You may want to throw up potentially with this. I mean, heck, I almost threw up looking at it. But they had Cedar Rafaela leading off yesterday. Jaron Durham was batting second. Rob Refsnyder batting third. Willie Abreu batting fourth. Connor Juan batting fifth. Bobby Dahlbeck batting sixth. Pablo Reyes batting seventh. Taylor Heineman, who they called up the other day, batting eighth. And then they had Emmanuel Valdez batting ninth. If the Yankees had a lineup like that, I bet the city would probably be burning down. So, yeah, just kind of the way the Red Sox have been doing it, and they swept the Pirates. So it's a confusing team right now, right, where their pitching's been okay. They've been kind of the reason why, and then their lineup has had some guys that are kind of chipping in here and there. So, but, yeah, I hope that cost is okay. That's obviously massive to not have on top of everything that was going on with the injuries. They got the Guardians this week, and then they got the Cubs. The Cubs come to Fenway this weekend, so obviously two teams that I feel like they have a good shot to beat. But yeah, there's just a lot, and they just can't take any more of these injuries. I mean, when is this going to stop? Really, is when is this going to stop? So, yeah, 13-10. They're obviously have a better record right now than the Dodgers. Sorry, Dodger fans. Your super team is worse right now than this Worcester Red Sox lineup. Now, all things aside, we're going to be in last place by September because I'm a realist, and they're going to obviously be in first place going for a championship. But of course, moral victories for this team is better than nothing. That's what happens when John Henry doesn't invest. I take the moral victories as anything with this team. So they're 6-4 in the last 10. They're 2.5 games back of the Yankees right now. They have a plus 18 run differential, which is decent. So, like I said, it could be a lot worse. We'll talk about the other Sox if you want to. The White Sox.
Well, we're kind of out of time, but before we do go, we might as well just bring up the graphic to just let everybody know, because I did kill the White Sox last week. The White Sox are the 10th team in the Major League Baseball history to drop 18 of their first 21 games, and the first in 2 decades. They got their butts kicked this past weekend in Philadelphia. They got swept. Shocking, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost 8-2. They lost by scores, I believe, of 7-0, 9-4, and 8-2. Nothing is good with the White Sox. I killed them last week, so I'll spare White Sox fans this week. They've been through enough.
I'm sorry, White Sox fans. Yeah, yes. I don't know what to say. Like, they're rebuilding, right? But they fucked up their rebuild, so they're just in an absolute bind. And I was kind of in your shoes last year. I mean, heck, I'll probably be in it this year with you guys. But there's White Sox, there's Rockies. Like, I think to myself, it could be so much worse than us. I really could, because I think the Red Sox, they're rebuilding, but like they're hopefully kind of make these contracts kind of be like the Braves, or they're kind of like locking guys up. The White Sox they're just doing all around right now. So
they could. Well, We'll see if they make a run at the worst team in baseball history. Right now, they are well on track to doing just that. So, yeah, but I hope for White Sox fans' sake that doesn't happen. But anyways, we're out of time here. That was episode number 29 of Hitting for the Cycle. We were going to talk about the Astros in this episode, but we didn't get to that. But we'll touch on them in the next week to see how they're doing. But the Astros obviously have been struggling as of late for a team that's just dominated the American League West for all those years. To see them sitting in last place with a 7-16 record, almost unfathomable. And we'll see if they can right the ship a little bit this week. But we'll see. On behalf of Ben Kruse, I'm Ryan Touhey. Tune in next time.